Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's been a few weeks since the government announced the largest water sharing agreements in history. Several weeks where these agreements are words on paper expressing intent, but because they're not legally binding, they don't require anyone to act. The drought response plan says that in stage 4 drought, the management action is to develop and implement water sharing agreements with large water users. Why is the government not following its own emergency response plan and requiring the implementation of the water sharing agreements?
The Honourable Minister of Environment and Protected Areas.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not quite sure what the member opposite is talking about. The signatories to the water sharing agreements are doing exactly what they agreed to do when those water sharing agreements were signed. Every 2 weeks, all of those water users come together to essentially go over the information that we have about water levels in those areas, and then they make a determination on whether or not they need to activate those water sharing agreements. Mr. Speaker, in the Red Deer and the Bow River Basin, it is not necessary to do that at this time, but water users in the Oldman did decide to move ahead and implement those agreements last week.
Honourable Member for Banff-Kananaskis.
Well, given that activating the water sharing agreements is a collaborative decision among participants, and they do meet regularly, but the public is not aware of when these meetings happen and what the results are, the government is not party to these agreements, and the water sharing agreements define triggers for implementation as a list of considerations, not quantifiable data, measurements, or data itself. Given that we keep hearing the government is waiting for snowpack data, but that data already exists and can be found online, why has the minister not required that all of the water sharing agreements be activated now?
The Honourable Minister of Environment Protected Areas.
Mr. Speaker, because not all basins do they require these to be activated right now. Mr. Speaker, there are 5 triggers that will be considered when deciding if an agreement needs to be activated. Of course, Mr. Speaker, that's snowpack and moisture data, final decisions by irrigation districts on water allocations per acre, the reservoir levels, river flows and 7-day forecasts, water demand. And then, of course, Mr. Speaker, we recognize that there are local challenges or issues that might differ from community to community and area to area. We do, in fact, have that snowpack data. Mr. Speaker, as we've said publicly, this group will continue to meet every 2 weeks and activate if necessary.
Honourable Member.
Well, given that we live in a province where hope is a strategy, I guess we can all hope for more rain to fill the reservoirs. And given that there are no enforcement mechanisms in place to make sure Albertans honor these voluntary agreements, we can hope everyone will do their best. And given that we don't know how much water small and medium license holders withdraw because we don't have that data, we can hope that these data gaps won't matter when we're going through the worst drought in decades. What's the minister hoping for these days? That thoughts and prayers will address the drought since our government won't?
Let's hope.
The Honourable Minister.
I would say that calling the hours and weeks and months that all of these water users across southern Alberta put into bringing together these water sharing agreements, calling that hope and lack of a plan is wildly disrespectful to the municipalities, the irrigators, and the other water users in the system that worked so hard to bring these water sharing agreements into place. Mr. Speaker, we had over 20 different water users at that announcement saying how historic this was and how beneficial having these agreements in place were, and the member's comments are completely disrespectful of all that work.